Stuck on who to start for week 7 of fantasy football? We've got the insights and answers to help you make those crucial decisions. We have the Cowboys and Bears on bye this week, so let's jump in on the games and decide who's going to have a good week.
Yeah, the Cowboys are gonna have a good week because they don't have to play after last week, I think, so, that's good for them, and they definitely need to figure something out after that blowout loss last week that was ugly. So, I think we have some better games this week. We'll see what they bring us. Some of them 'em I'm a little worried about, but let's jump in with our first one, and that is the Seahawks at Atlanta. This seems like a high total for these 2. The over-under is 51 points, and that seems a little odd to me. But the last 3 games for the Falcons have hit the over, and they've been totaling 50 to 66 points. And Seattle has also hit the over on the last 3 games with 49 to 71 points. I find it funny, though, because the Seahawks have dropped their last 3, and the Falcons are kinda doing a little bit better as they score more points. So, I'm wondering if this is the game where no one can move the ball and we're just let down.
I think both sides are going to be able to move the ball.
You think so? I think it's just
Yeah.
your love of both of these teams that's distorting your vision a little bit here. But if you've got Geno Smith, you're going to be playing him as well as Kenneth Walker. You can't afford to probably bench either one of them. And then Kirk Cousins on the other side, unless you've got a better quarterback, you're going to play him the way he's been playing and passing for touchdowns. I think the big question for me comes on Bijan Robinson. And you know that Bijan and I are not friends. We have this, really bad relationship where I play him and he lets me down and I get really upset. And I swear up and down, I'm never going to go to him again. And then I end up doing it again. And this to me is one of those games. He's coming off a good game against the Carolina Panthers, and now we're expecting Bijan to have 2 good games in a row, while Tyler Algier is eating into his carries as well. Tyler Algier also ran for over 100 yards last week and had 38% of the carries. So, or maybe it was even more than that. I think he's averaging 38% on the year. I have concerns over Bijan Robinson's. How about
Oh,
you?
I do too.
Uh,
I think that this game could go back and forth. We've seen some injuries on the Seattle defense side, and we have seen how Atlanta defense hasn't always been stopping things with those point totals. Obviously, they're getting pretty high up there, and it's not just because one team is scoring all the points.
True. Yeah.
So I think this could be the back and forth, and I am not on the Robinson the
You're not
Robinson
on?
group this week.
Okay, so we're off of him. How about Drake London and Darnell Mooney?
I would personally favor Mooney and Algier, maybe even
Interesting.
Pitts.
Well, you can't start Algier, though, over Bijan. You just
Why not?
you just don't do that. Anyhow, let's move on to another game that I like a lot better. Carolina at Washington. Over under 51. I like this one to hit the over. I like all parts of this. I think everybody's pretty much playable in this game. You have to avoid the injury minefield. So we don't know if Brian Robinson Jr. for the Commanders will be playing. He was limited in practice on Wednesday. He missed last week. And then Austin Eckler had a really great day. But if you've got Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, Brian Robinson Jr., if he plays, or Austin Eckler, you're playing all of them in this game. Even Zach Ertz is playable also as a tight end in this game. And then on the other side, I mean, Carolina's going to be behind. I like playing all of them because the Washington defense isn't that good either. They've been getting better every week, but they're not great. So I like playing Andy Dalton. I like playing Chuba Hubbard. Deontay Johnson he didn't practice on Wednesday, so he has an ankle injury. We've got to keep an eye on that because if he doesn't play, I absolutely love playing Xavier Legette.
I'm as sold on this game as you are. I don't know. It could be good.
This
I
is
we can just
a
cut.
great game
This
for
is.
all players.
I guess both teams haven't had the most stopping defense, though. I could
They
see Washington's defense stopping more of Carolina, which I think is what's giving me the pause. Is are we going to see a game like Arizona Washington, or are we going to see a competitive back and forth?
I think this one goes back and forth for sure.
So Detroit at Minnesota.
Yeah, Detroit at Minnesota. This is like one of the games of the week. We have quite a few of them here on the slate, I think. So, Detroit and Minnesota are both really good against the run, which is going to make this a really interesting game if no one can run it because they both like to run it, especially Detroit. And if they can't run and they can only pass, do we finally get a great game out of Amon-Ra St. Brown? I've been waiting for it. I've really been waiting for it. And I think this maybe is the week that we get it. This could definitely be one of those games where we don't see a lot of production in the first half and then it goes crazy in the second half. If you've got Jamar Gibbs or David Montgomery, I would take pause about playing them only if you have to. I think it's probably a good week to bench them if you've got other options. Now, not everyone's got other options, but if you do, this is not a great matchup for either one of them. And then on the Vikings running game, Aaron Jones is questionable. He has that hip injury. So we might see more Ty Chandler. We're not real sure, but I don't think they're going to be able to run really well against Detroit anyway.
Do you think we're going to see a lot of sacks and interceptions?
We could.
Is
We
this the
could just
week we get a
see
bunch from Darnold?
Yeah, we could see sacks, interceptions, drop passes, and I think maybe that's the way the first half of this game shapes up, and then they all figure something out. But to me, this is a battle of Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Justin Jefferson. And if you've got either of them, you're playing them anyway. You're playing them every week. They were your first round draft picks, and you've got to play them. But I think Jamison Williams and Jordan Addison, the wide receiver twos on the team, are both great plays and could have even bigger days than their wide receiver one counterparts. So all the wide receivers here are definitely in play. Sam Laporta as well, I think, is in play for a tight end on the Detroit Lions. Of course, you're starting him. He's been one of the better tight ends this year. And we've got TJ Hawkinson. I don't think he's going to come back this week, but at least the Vikings are about to get their tight end back and make things even more interesting.
Let's move on to Baltimore at Tampa Bay.
Another fun one. Can we go for like an 80-point total here? It's only at 49, which is kind of interesting because Baltimore hit 79 once this year when they played Cincinnati, and Tampa Bay hit 78 last week against New Orleans. So can we just like get the both of these teams going and get an 80-point game? That would be fun. And again, the Baltimore defense is good at stopping the run, so we'll have to see if Bucky Irving or Sean Tucker can keep up with what they did last week. We'll also have to see if Rashad White is going to play this week, if he's back, and what that does to Sean Tucker. So if you picked up Sean Tucker, you definitely got to be watching that whole injury situation with Rashad White and whether or not you should play him or not. It's not a great game. Like I said, the Ravens are great at stopping the run. And on the other side, though, the Ravens should be able to run on Tampa Bay. We've seen everyone run pretty much on Tampa Bay. So I like Derrick Henry. Lamar Jackson's also, a must start, both of them. Zay Flowers is coming off of a great week. So you're going to start Zay Flowers again, because if this gets in a shootout, it's going to be on Zay Flowers for sure. And Mark Andrews actually showed up last week.
So should I start Likely? If you picked up Likely a couple weeks ago when he was on the waiver wire, is this a game maybe don't
It
start
might
Likely?
be. It might be for both of them. There's probably better options at tight end than Likely. I think I'd start Mark Andrews over Likely. He's not gonna be on my top 12 tight end list. So unless you're really desperate because people are hogging, tight ends, then I wouldn't start Likely. You could go on the other side of the ball and start Cade Otton. I like Cade Otton for the Bucks for sure.
What about Houston at Green Bay?
This one's interesting as well. So we're still at a 47.5 point total. I always like starting players on winning teams more than I like starting players on losing teams, because somehow players on winning teams find ways to make the points that they're supposed to anyway. They don't usually, skunk you with a really low total there. So now we've got two teams that are winning, and we'll see if they end up in a shootout as well. Houston has Joe Mixon, and he's coming off a great day last week, which was really surprising because he had just come back from injury, but he had a great day. He's startable, but he is going against a pretty good or an average run defense in the Green Bay Packers. So I think Mixon, you can start him. The problem is if Houston gets behind, or even if they want to, open things up a little bit more and get ahead, they're gonna have to pass. So I really would like Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell and even their tight end Dalton Schultz. I know Dalton Schultz hasn't been a big part of their offense, but with that injury to Nico Collins, it really opens up more opportunities, I feel, for Dalton Schultz. And this is the kind of game where it's a difficult matchup, but they're gonna be passing a lot, where I really like leaning on the tight end. And kind of the same on the other side of the ball, and Jordan Love is probably going to have to pass a lot, so you're starting Jordan Love. I like starting Christian Watson. This is another one that's kind of interesting because the wide receivers, it's just a carousel of wide receivers for the Green Bay Packers, and we're gonna have to look and see who's injured. And if Jaden Reed doesn't play, then, things get a little bit clearer. It doesn't look like Dontavian Wicks will play, but he also does have a chance. If they're both out, then it becomes Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs. But if they're in, then we have to be a little bit more cautious here. I feel like I like Christian Watson because they're going to need that big down the field play from Love and Christian Watson, and that's what he does. You may only have him catch, 5 balls, but it might be a 100-yard play or an 80-yard play that does it for you in a touchdown, and you'll just need that one big play from him. And they're gonna need that to beat the Texans. So I like starting all of those. Do you like this one?
I think one of the pauses I have with Jaden Reed, since he is questionable, even if he is in, how much do they actually utilize Jaden Reed versus using as a decoy?
They could, and he could go out injured even if he does play in the middle of the game, which happened to me on a couple players last week that really ended up losing my fantasy matchups for me.
I saw some really low scores online for people who had all pretty much half of their team go out with injuries in the
Yeah,
games.
that's no fun to have that happen.
Nope. So let's chat Kansas City at San Francisco.
Yeah, Kansas City at San Francisco. So over unders 47. We're still up there. I feel like we have a lot of, higher scoring games. Kansas City defense is not giving up much, and Kansas City's coming off a bye, and there's no way I will bet against Kansas City coming off a bye and playing anybody. I want the 49ers to do well in this game, but in my head, coming off that bye is such an advantage for the Chiefs that I can't get there. So I really don't like anyone on the 49ers this week. I should, because they're probably going to have to pass. It's just that the Kansas City defense has been so good this year. And then we have running back issues for the 49ers. Jordan Mason left last week and he's questionable this week. But the next guy up, Isaac Garendo, stepped in and did well. So we might see more of him this week. And if you picked him up, I would say you can start him if you are desperate. He's one of the more desperate plays, I would say. And, what the heck, because we don't know what we're getting there. But this Kansas City defense is really good. And because I don't think the 49ers can do a whole lot against Kansas City coming off of that bye, I'm not real high on the Kansas City wide receivers. They're kind of in flux anyway. I know we've been talking about Juju Smith-Schuster, and he might be okay. I'm not high on Patrick Mahomes either. He's been kind of, filtering down the quarterback list as well. Do you like anyone in this game?
Not a huge lot on this game. I think I will be starting Juju Smith-Schuster just due to how thin I am in the wide receiver role, and with everything going on and injuries, I'm a little stuck. So I'm hoping Juju Smith-Schuster has a good week. I think San Francisco could do a bit better than we want to give them credit for, just because while we're saying that Kansas City had a bye week, San Francisco played last Thursday. So as they're as close to having a bye week as you could, or like equal to a bye week, I think, as you could get.
Yeah, without having
Because
one.
they without having one, because they played West Coast, they only went up to Seattle, and it was Thursday. So
Yeah. They may have an okay game. I just don't wanna have to pick which one of them it's going to be because it always seems to be just one. So is it gonna be Debo Samuel? Is it gonna be Brandon Ayuk? Is it gonna be George Kittle? Is it gonna be Juwan Jennings? And I don't feel like it could be multiple of them in this situation with a good defense, and I don't wanna bet on which one it is.
I'm with you there.
Assuming, obviously, that you have other people to play.
So what about the Raiders at the Rams? We're
Yeah,
now
I
under that 45 mark.
Yeah, we are. We're getting down there now. We're not scoring as many points, and I can't believe the Rams have a worse record than the Raiders. Let's just give the ball to Karen Williams, and he can run it 100 times because I feel like that's going to be the game script here for this one. And Cooper Cup may return this week, but I think Kyron Williams gets all the carries and all the time, and I don't know that they need to pass a whole lot to do much to the Raiders. On the Raiders side, obviously, if you have Brock Bowers, you're gonna start him. And if you have Cooper Cup, I wouldn't start him in his first week back. I don't think this is when they're going to get all crazy and start throwing 100 passes to Cooper Cup on his first game back. We may see him limited in how many snaps he takes on the field, trying to ease him back in unless they actually have to do something.
Yeah. This is the one of the few games where if you're looking at projected fantasy points, I think Kyron Williams is actually projected above Matthew Stafford, which means this is like one of the only games where the quarterback is not
Yeah.
projected the highest.
It's one of the few, definitely. There's another one, but I think it's Tennessee, so, we're
Similar
we
reasons then
yeah,
probably.
probably. We know that Williams is gonna get the ball a lot, so you're obviously starting him. I like the Rams' defense too, to start here, going against Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders' offense that is giving away its players. I guess we should have mentioned, Devontae Adams has gone to the Jets, and we'll get to that one a little bit later. That one's a fun one.
So let's chat the other LA team. LA Chargers are going over to Arizona. Another 43.5 point over under.
Yeah, this one's Monday night. Cardinals probably without Marvin Harrison Jr., who has a concussion and was one of the players that left one of the games last week and left me stranded. The Chargers defense should just control this game, I think, and J.K. Dobbins should be able to run, and they should just be able to eat up the clock. I don't know if you ever watch on Sunday and you're watching all the games and suddenly one's done well before the other ones. And this one has that going on because the more they run the ball and keep the clock running, the quicker it's over. And I feel like this is going to be one of those games. And the Cardinals are going to probably be kind of thankful for that if they can get this one done with over and over quickly. Because I don't really think that they can do much. They're just really struggling, and I don't know what it is. If you've got Kyler Murray, find a different option. Pick up Andy Dalton. There are better plays than Kyler Murray in the situation, as well as James Conner. I don't think he's going to be able to run a whole lot. And then you've got Michael Wilson. Trey McBride is probably startable just because he's in the tight end position, and we're so weak with tight ends, and he does get a lot of targets.
And Harrison Jr.'s out.
Again, it's another defense that's definitely playable is the Chargers defense.
So next one's a little bit hard to talk about, probably. Miami at Indiana. Over under is 43, which is a little higher than I'm expecting, especially with a Indy only favored by 3. Um, what do you think about those Dolphins players? Is this the week we can play them?
I think it is. I know. It's kind of weird to say that, and I don't like it. I was really hoping, we get Tua back, but not sure when he's going to come back. Dolphins are coming off their bye. They're facing a really beat up and not so good anyway Colts defense. So it's hopefully they figured something out on the bye week for either Tyler Huntley or Skylar Thompson, whoever plays quarterback in this position, and they get to test the plays out on, a pretty weak defense. I like both of the running backs, and I love Tyreek Hill in this game. And hopefully they can get him the ball. Otherwise, I think they will find ways to get Hill more involved. On the Colts side, I can only say Tyler Goodson, and that's because they're going to be without Jonathan Taylor, and it looks like they're going to be without Trey Sermon as well. If they're not, then, kind of things go. I still wouldn't play too many here. Trey Sermon's playable if he's back in. Jonathan Taylor's not going to be back for this game. And they are getting Anthony Richardson back, which to me takes out all of the wide receivers from play here. I don't even know how he's going to play, which Anthony Richardson we're going to get. So I would not be wanting to play Pittman or Josh Downs in this situation.
Let's go to our London game. New England Patriots are joining Jacksonville across the pond.
Yeah, Jacksonville got to stay
Jacksonville's
there.
getting well, and it kind of makes sense this time why we're saying Jacksonville is the home team. They've at least been there 2 weeks now.
Yeah, they stayed. They've been there longer than anyone, so they get to be called the home team. Um, Running backs on both sides of this ball have great opportunities. Both teams are not very good at stopping the run, so we don't know if Ramondre Stevenson will be playing. It may end up being Antonio Gibson, and if you need a running back to play, that's definitely one to keep your eye on. So if Ramondre Stevenson isn't playing, you could pick up probably Antonio Gibson at the last minute and play him in a good matchup. On the other side, it looks like the Jaguars will be without ETN, and Tank Bigsby is a great play. ETN wasn't getting that much anyway, and Tank Bigsby looked better. So I like Bigsby as well on this. Both of these offenses are, not real powerful. I love that the Patriots have now decided that the Jacoby Brissett era is over, and we get to go see Drake May because he actually looked really good last week and is definitely playable, I feel like, in this matchup. And he brings up wide receiver Demario Douglas as well. And you can definitely take a chance and play them. You're not starting them over somebody great, but if you're in need of somebody to start, I like both Drake May and Demario Douglas to play well in this game and see what they can do against a defense that isn't very powerful. But this game isn't too exciting, and we can probably sleep till halftime as well.
So, Kyler Murray or Drake May?
Drake May.
That's the hot take for this week. Drake May might be open even or not claimed by anybody. So if you're listening to this and have Kyler Murray, maybe just go pick up Drake May and play him this week.
Yeah, I'd much rather play Drake May than Kyler Murray.
Eagles at the Giants. We're getting low now, 42.5. This is kind of a revenge game though for Barkley. Barkley's going back to the Giants. Maybe he's going to run all over them.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley is becoming my new Bijan Robinson, I think. And owners of Saquon Barkley just have to be, beating their head against the wall going, "You look so good," and then you've just gone off a cliff and you're not playing well. The whole Eagles team is not playing well. Jalen Hurts is playing bad. They got their wide receivers back, but it didn't really seem to make that big of a difference last week. The wide receivers did well. They were still getting the ball. It was just kind of an ugly, painful game to watch. I mean, obviously, if you have A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith, you're going to play them in this game. You're also playing Jalen Hurts and crossing your fingers, and you're playing Saquon Barkley going, this is the last week. All of these players, you're like, is this the last week you're going to play? But if they can't get it done against the Giants, then we are going to have to reconsider things and wonder, is this another Bijan Robinson moment where we need to learn something a little bit quicker than we did with Bijan?
What about Neighbors? Should I be playing Neighbors this week?
I don't know if he's going to play. I mean, he is staying out a while with that concussion. So we'll see if he plays. And if he doesn't play, then Wandell Robinson and Darius Slayton are definitely in play. They're going to get targets. Daniel Jones is gonna throw the ball, and then running the game, we don't know if Devin Singletary is going to be there or not. If he's out, then, it falls to Tyrone Tracy, and I like Tyrone Tracy, especially if Devin Singletary is out, and the Eagles' defense hasn't, put up anything big either. It's just, like, a lot of not scoring and a lot of players doing not a lot in this game.
Let's chat then Cincinnati Bengals at Cleveland Browns. The Bengals record is only slightly better than the Browns, surprisingly. Cincinnati is favored at least, but this one's 41.5 over under.
Yeah, the Bengals are clawing their way back into the Central Division, and the Browns are quietly quitting their division by sending Amari Cooper over to the Buffalo Bills. Zach Moss for the Bengals got benched in the second half of the game. I was wondering why he stopped getting any points again for me because he fumbled the ball and they just put him on the bench and said, "You're done for a while." Any defense playing Deshaun Watson is a defense that I'm interested in. So the Bengals defense is in play here. I also feel like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown, all of the Bengals parts are in play as well. The Browns aren't offering up too much of a defense, and we'll see how that goes. The only one that's playable on the Brown side is David Njoku. You got anyone else you want to play here?
What about Chubb? Is Chubb back this week?
They're saying he probably will play in this game, but I think it will be extremely limited. We may only see him, run 5 times. So, no,
So
he's
not
not
the week to
playable
start
this
him.
week. No, not this week, but it'll be fun to
Tennessee
see him
at
back.
Oh yeah. It will definitely be fun to see him back. So we're getting low now. Tennessee at Buffalo. Buffalo is favored by 9 points. And
Yeah,
this over under is 40.5. So they're just saying Buffalo's going to run all over Tennessee.
yep. Hopefully, you have other options outside of this game. I mean, if you have Josh Allen, you're gonna play Josh Allen, and he just got, another wide receiver to target, and they're questionable at running back. So we don't know if James Cook, he's got a toe injury, if he's going to be able to play, and if he can't play, then it's, who is their other running back? Ty Johnson. So the running back situation is suspect. We're gonna depend on Josh Allen and some wide receivers, maybe a tight end. Dalton Kincaid is, though, he was limited in practice with a collarbone injury, which was a little surprising for me. If he's out, then I don't know. I was gonna say Dawson Knox if he was out, but I'm gonna take that back now and just stay out of this game. On the Tennessee side, you'll notice that we have a running back listed above the quarterback in projection rankings. It's Tony Pollard ranked higher than Will Levis on the Tennessee side of this ball, and Tony Pollard's going to get all the work. This is another situation where they're just going to hand him the ball and have him keep running. So I do like playing Tony Pollard in this one.
I'll also add there, Buffalo's been giving up points to running backs. So this is definitely one of those situations where starting Tony Pollard makes a lot of sense.
It does. Yeah. I like Pollard here.
Let's wrap it up with the Jets at Pittsburgh. Our
This
Sunday
one's
night game is
fun.
projected to be a pretty low scoring game.
It is.
Jets are
And
favored by 2.
I feel like this one, I don't know. I think they're, remembering the Steelers that started the season and not the Steelers we've been seeing lately. Anyhow, so Aaron Rodgers got his wish and he got Devontae Adams, and Devontae Adams is magically healed after taking his red eye flight to New York. So now he's ready to go on Sunday night. Is this a magical reunion?
I mean, maybe Aaron Rodgers not only got Devontae Adams, but also got a new coach. So
Yep.
big changes.
He's got like that magic genie bottle or something, and he makes a wish and it comes true that same week. It's kind of amazing, but he's also running out of excuses. So I saw last week after the loss that he blamed officiating. He's running out of excuses, and all I know is if Devontae Adams is in that game, which he plans on being, Aaron Rodgers is going to throw to him. So I would play Devontae Adams and give it a go and see what is going to happen. I don't know what
I'd
that's
probably
gonna
say
mean to the
then,
rest of the team, though.
yeah, if you have other options, this would be a week to be cautious about Garrett Wilson and maybe even Breece Hall. Like, if you have other options, be cautious.
Yes,
Is there
the
I just
Steelers
don't
are
know if they're gonna be
also
used as easy.
yeah, the Steelers are also really good at on stopping the run as well. So, on that Steelers side, hey, hey, we're 4 and 2. Why don't we just bench our quarterback and bring somebody else in that hasn't played all year for us? That sounds like a brilliant plan. I have no idea why they are starting Russell Wilson. This call just is crazy to me to bench Justin Fields and start Russell Wilson. So the Jets defense is the defense I want playing everywhere because Russell Wilson will throw interceptions. He might even fumble the ball too if you put a little pressure on him, and the Jets defense can definitely get pressure on him. I don't want any part of the Steelers players this week.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I might be stuck because Freiermuth is my tight end, and I'm pretty sure I don't have any other tight ends, but I might go to the waiver wire and see if I could pick someone else up then. Um,
Yeah, I would
doubt
be
it.
looking.
That's maybe I just need to plan around that and hope my other team members can make up for a lack of points there.
Yeah, you might
But
have to take that risk on Likely if you've only got Freiermuth and Likely.
yep. Um, well, that's all the games this weekend. Uh, and I'm excited for some of them. If Are you still enjoying your fantasy leagues, or are you getting a little frustrated and ready to focus a little bit more on DFS?
I'm doing okay. I'm struggling. So they're either winning or losing, and I hate the players going out in the middle of the game and just stranding me. And sometimes I have two doing that, and that's getting a little bit frustrating.
If we should do more DFS then too.
Probably.
Make up for those frustrating weeks, and our listeners should join us if you're also frustrated with your fantasy league or team so far. Join us over in our DFS area. It's a great way to do it only for a weekend. You get any players you want. If you're new, we have a couple of series that we'll link in the description that will help you get up to speed. We'll also have our week 7 DFS episode, and then we'll have a couple of free contests going. Check the description for all those links.